Donald Trump just held a disastrous cabinet meeting in public. It looked like an unreleased awful season of The Apprentice meets Kim Jong-un's North Korea. Donald Trump blaming all of the horrible economic news on former President Biden. This is Donald Trump, who was claiming success for the economy under former President Biden during the campaign. He said the markets love Donald so much. That's why Biden's economy is doing well. Now that Donald Trump's been in charge for 100 days, he goes, it's doing really bad because of Biden. Here, Donald Trump says that next quarter's GDP is going to be bad because of Biden. Play this clip.
Look at the stock market in this case. It says how bad a situation we inherited. I took place, this is a quarter that we looked at today, and we took all of us together. We came in on January 20th. So this is Biden. And you could even say the next quarter is sort of Biden, because it doesn't just happen on a daily or an hourly basis.
Now, we just got this quarter's GDP showing that our economy is shrinking. First quarter GDP was negative 0.3%, and it looks like things are only going to get worse. And Donald Trump's already preparing to blame former President Biden for next quarter's disastrous GDP and the crashing markets. Here, Donald Trump says that anyone who's complaining about products not being on the shelves, like kids worried that they're not going to get their dolls or toys, should just basically suck it up. They don't need 30 dolls. Here, play this clip.
Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls, you know, and maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But we're not talking about something that we have to go out of our way. They have ships that are loaded up with stuff, much of which, not all of it, but much of which we don't need.
Yes, Donald Trump is actually declaring a war on Christmas. Donald Trump's like, don't you worry if there's things that are not on the shelves. Who cares if you have to pay more money? Here, Donald Trump then turns to Elon Musk, who's still at the cabinet meeting. At one point, he was wearing 2 hats on top of his head at the same time in this cabinet meeting. I know, so utterly embarrassing. I'll show you that in a moment. And here, Donald Trump looks at Elon Musk and says, I just want to congratulate you and Doge for the work you did. You helped $150 billion in cuts to our government spending. Play this clip.
You've done an incredible job. $150 billion. Think of this.
Yeah. 160 now.
Yeah, 160. They said, oh, it could have been more. And a lot of stuff is being worked on. That number could be doubled and even tripled. A lot of things are being worked on that we don't count yet because it's not quite there. But you've done a fantastic job, and we appreciate it very much, Elon. You know,
thank you.
First off, you all said it was going to be $2 trillion in cuts. Then you said it was going to be 1 trillion. Now you're saying it's 150 billion. But you know the real facts, Donald, because we come with receipts here on the MeidasTouch network. There's been significantly more federal government spending now under your regime than under President Biden's administration. And in fact, Doge, if it did anything at all, has led to increasing the deficit significantly, both in the short term and, oh my gosh, the level of tax revenue that's not going to be collected is going to surge the deficit in the future. Here is Elon Musk wearing the 2 hats, just making a mockery of the White House and the United States of America. Play this clip.
Great job, Kelly. Thank you very much. Elon, I love the double hat, by the way. He's the only one that can do that. Get away with it.
Well, Mr. President, you know, they say I wear a lot of hats. It's true. Even my hat has a hat.
This is more from Donald Trump blaming the bad GDP numbers, bad economic numbers on former President Biden. Let's play it.
Get the criminals out of our country, and that's the basis under which we won the election. Core GDP, and this is, you know, you probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is quarterly numbers. And we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy, destroying our country.
Donald Trump brags here that ships from the ports of China are having to turn around and not deliver products to the United States because our tariffs are so high. Trump thinks this is a good thing. Play this clip.
I just saw some reports coming out, and I don't want that to happen to China. I like the president a lot, President Xi. I don't want it to happen. I was actually saddened to hear it, but they are getting absolutely hammered in China. And, they're sending boats, the biggest boats in the world, carrying cargo like nobody's ever seen before. These are the biggest boats in the world, biggest cargo ships in the world. And they're coming and they're turning around in the Pacific Ocean. They're doing a big U-turn and going back because they don't want the goods because 145% tariff. But at a certain point, I hope we're going to make a deal with China. We're talking to China, but their factories are closing all over China because we're not taking their product. We don't want their product unless they're going to be fair with us. And that includes intellectual property and other things. There are a lot of things far beyond just buy, sell.
Next up, Marco Rubio says that he and the Trump regime are now actively searching for other concentration camps in addition to El Salvador to send migrants. Play the clip.
Move quickly because this has been a team effort. We have gone to countries all over the world and said, hey, you want good relations with the United States? You need to take back your people that are here illegally. And we've had historic cooperation. Beyond that, and I say this unapologetically, we are actively searching for other countries to take people from third countries. So we are active, not just El Salvador. We are working with other countries to say, we want to send you some of the most despicable human beings to your countries. Will you do that as a favor to us? And the further away from America, the better, so they can't come back across the border. I'm not apologetic about it. We are doing that. The president was...
And here, Marco Rubio also talks about how he will never tell judges about the status of migrants or Abrego Garcia. He goes, I'm not going to tell you. I'm sure as hell not going to tell judges. They have no right to know what I'm doing as Secretary of State. Play this clip.
Secretary Rubio, can I ask you a question? You brought up El Salvador in your remarks. Have you been in touch with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia? Has a formal request from this administration been made?
Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge. So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to, but I'll never discuss it. And no one will ever make us discuss it because that's how foreign policy works.
Next up, you have RFK Jr. saying that he's solved an understanding of where autism comes from, he says, and that he'll have definitive answers very soon and they're going to fix everything. Just more lies from this pathetic, vile regime. Play this clip.
We have launched the autism study at your direction. By September, we'll have some of the first answers. Within 6 months of that, we will have definitive answers, not only for autism, but for the etiology of a whole range of autoimmune diseases that have become epidemic in our children.
Randomly, Marco Rubio starts pointing here at Donald Trump as he starts talking about pedos and perverts. Play this clip.
When the president was elected to keep America safe and to get rid of a bunch of perverts and pedophiles and child rapists out of our country.
A reporter here actually asked a good question to Donald Trump, saying, you took credit for the stock market under former President Biden. You said it was doing well because people thought your poll numbers were good. And now you're blaming the bad economy that you're in charge on former President Biden. Play this clip.
Yeah, the transition, sir. You frequently took credit for the stock market highs. You said it was a reflection of how well you were doing in the polls. And then after you were elected, you said the stock market highs were a reflection of how well the transition is going and the American people's confidence in your incoming administration. Now, the stock market's not doing so well, and you're saying that's the Biden stock market, yet you are the president. Can you explain that?
No, I'm not taking a credit or discredit for the stock market. I'm just saying that we inherited a mess, both at the borders. You could look at every single one of the people here, and no matter who it is, they're doing better, and they are far superior to what took place for 4 years before us. When you look at prisoners being allowed to come into our country at will, just at will, people from mental institutions, gang members, drug dealers, when you look at that, what they've done to our country, and also having to do with finance, look at what happened with inflation. We had the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. They say.
Next up, Donald Trump I guess, takes credit for the Canadian elections, and he claims that Prime Minister Mark Carney hated him less than the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre. And Trump's like, the party that hated me less was the one that won, which is just completely not true. Prime Minister Carney's entire campaign was elbows up about standing up to Donald Trump and saying the relationship with America's over. But just literally everything Trump says is a lie. Play this clip.
Canada ran against, not only against the conservatives, but also against you. Yesterday, yesterday he spoke about American betrayal. Are you interested in rebuilding relations with Canada? And if so, how?
No, well, I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, "Let's make a deal." You know, he was running for office. They both hated Trump, and it was the one that hated Trump, I think, the least that won. I actually think the conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy. But no, I spoke to him yesterday. He couldn't have been nicer, and I congratulated him. You know, it was a very mixed signal because it's almost even, which makes it very complicated for the country. It's a pretty tight race, but he's a very nice gentleman, and he's going to come to the White House very shortly, within the next week or less.
Donald Trump blames the horrific plane crash over Washington, D.C., where the airplane crashed into the military helicopter. Essentially, he's blaming it on Biden. He goes, "You wouldn't have had that if we had better equipment that we're having now." Play this clip.
I appreciate your support on that, Mr. President.
Rebuilding that is very important. You wouldn't have had the helicopter crashing into the plane at 400 feet up when it's supposed to be 200 feet. Right. That would have, bells and whistles would have been gone over, and you would have heard the screaming equipment saying, "There's a problem coming up in 15 seconds. You got to do something about it right now." And it would have also sent the word right into the helicopter, because I guess you'll be doing the full report on that. But it was pretty obvious what happened. Right. And there was supposed to be at 200 feet. There were 400 feet, and a terrible thing. And that wouldn't have happened if we had the right equipment. If we had the right equipment, you would have heard bells and whistles going off, and it would have alerted them long before that would have happened. 2 minutes before, they would have had a lot of time. So
next up, Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, brags how over dinner with his rich friends, they talk about buying Trump gold cards to buy citizenship in the United States. Play this clip.
Together, we're going to train the workforce to build America. It's unbelievable. We've got so much, as I travel around, the attention on the Trump gold card. I mean, it makes me very popular. Last night, I was out to dinner, and someone came up and said, "Can I buy 10? And how do I buy 10? And I'm like, "That's pretty good. It's $50 million for dinner." So, you know, I was paying for my dinner. The external revenue.
So they're literally bragging at this cabinet meeting about selling citizenship to rich friends over dinner. And they're laughing and they think this is funny as the economy's crashing, as people's 401ks and pensions are being destroyed. You have billionaires in this cabinet like Howard Lutnick talking about going out to fancy dinners and selling their rich friends from overseas $5 million Trump cards to gain citizenship here, as we're taking migrants with no criminal history and throwing them in concentration camps. Then you have Brooke Rollins, the Secretary of Agriculture, lie about reducing egg prices, and they all find this to be like some funny joke. It's really weird. Play this clip.
Good job.
Yes, I understand. Yes, I understand.
Well, I'm not sure if anyone's heard, but the price of eggs is down. That's new.
And then you have the Kim Jong-un style kind of North Korea propaganda here. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says, "Donald, this has been the most momentous 100 days ever." Play this clip.
Thank you.
Please, Scott.
Sir, it's been a momentous 100 days with you at the helm, and I view this 100 days as setting the table for peace deals, trade deals, tax deals. So the next 100 days will be harvesting. You've created negotiating leverage and leadership that are going to yield remarkable results. Energy costs have plummeted. Mortgage rates are down. Food costs are moving lower, and American families are finding their financial footing again.
Donald Trump's chief of staff, Susan Wiles, says, "This has been the greatest. You're the greatest ever." Play this clip.
I'll be brief so you can hear from these amazing people. Congratulations to everyone on 100 days. That's been it's unparalleled in my memory and best I can tell ever.
Donald Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi. Let's play it.
Pam?
President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country, ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
Lee Zeldin, Donald Trump's EPA administrator. Let's play it.
Now, today is a special day for many reasons. The biggest reason why we're here is that this is the 100th day of the most consequential, historic first 100 days in the history of this country.
And then finally, you have J.D. Vance here at the end saying that all of these portraits of the presidents that are on the wall, none of them compare to you, Donald. They were all placeholders. All these presidents are placeholders for a real man. Here, play this clip.
And I think what it shows to me is that the president, and you sit in the Oval Office and you see these portraits of presidents past. And let's be honest, most of them have been placeholders. They've been people who have allowed their staff to sign executive orders with an auto pen instead of men of action. And
I mean, seriously, the lies, bizarre, RFK lying about autism. I mean, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, talking about selling citizenship to rich friends. Donald Trump blaming the Trump economy on former President Biden. I mean, it is a disaster in there. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe and let's get to 5 million subscribers.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.